Welcome back to Excel Tutorials. This is lesson 4 in this series of Excel tutorials. Let's open up an Excel workbook. This is a continuation of lesson 3. If you didn't do lesson 3, you need to go back and review that lesson and create these worksheets. In the last lesson, we created some of the things that you are seeing in this lesson, like the product sales, profits, and unit profits, cost per unit. So we want this worksheet tab to be called 2012. So we will right click on it and we'll rename it to 2012. We want this unit worksheet to be renamed to cost pool. We'll right click and rename this to cost pool. Now we want this worksheet tab to be a different color than the other worksheet tabs. So we will right click on it and change the tab color to red. Now you see it still remains mostly white, but when we click away to 2012, it becomes red and mostly white again. Okay, now we want to populate all of the cost pool years. Our cost pool consists of 10 years, 2012 to 2021. We have 2012, we need 9 more. So we'll right click on the tab and select copy. We'll move to the end, create a copy, OK. And we'll continue doing that until we have enough worksheet tabs for each year. Okay, we have all of our worksheet tabs to represent each of our cost pools. That's how you copy worksheets. If you want to copy information, you see all these worksheets have all that information, all of the same information. Okay, we're back at the 2012 tab. We want our cost pool at the end, so we just grab it and drag it and stick it on the end. Okay, we will rename all of these for the years corresponding to our cost pool years. Right click, rename. Okay, we have all of our worksheet tabs renamed, 2012 to 2021. So create these worksheets and follow along. It will help you become more proficient with Microsoft Excel. Now, if you're doing cost pools at the workplace, you may see this as oversimplified. These cost pools and worksheets are simplified for the purposes of this lesson. Okay, before we do a recap on cell referencing, we want to learn how to freeze rows and columns. So let's say, for example, that we want to freeze this header and have all of these move up under the header. What we do is we select the row, the entire row, go to View, select Freeze Panes. We have all of these options. Freeze top row, we don't want that. We want to freeze the rows based on current selection. So we'll select this. That freezes the rows above my selection. We see the black line running along here, indicating that these rows above are frozen. Let's test that. We will scroll down and you see everything slides under those rows. Okay, we want to try now to freeze columns. In order to do that, we have to go back to the freeze panes and unfreeze the panes. Select that. Now these are unfrozen again. We scroll, we see that. Let's freeze this column. Go to freeze panes. Based on current selection, you notice that we selected the column to the right of the one that we want to freeze. We wanted to freeze this column, so we selected this column to the right of it. And we see the black line running down here to indicate that this column is frozen. Let's test that out. Let's go to the scroll bar on the bottom, and we see that they slide under that column. We have all of our products, ZR, YR, XR, WR, and our information slides under. Okay, that's good. And now we need to learn about grouping worksheet tabs. So let's press the Control key, select 2012, 13, 14, 15, and so on. And we're not going to select a cost pool. So now all of those are grouped. Anything we do in 2012 will also be done in 2021. Let's test that. Let's select this box and put 555 in there. And check 2013. Sure enough, 14, 15, and so on. This is just in case you have information that is repeated across worksheets. You use the Control key and select all the tabs that you want to be grouped so that you can update them all at once, saving you a lot of time. So now if we click on a tab that is not a part of these group tabs, they will become ungrouped. For example, if we click the Cost Pool Worksheet tab, all of the tabs that we had grouped are now ungrouped. Let's just group them again for 1 minute. Another way to ungroup them is to right click on the tab and select Ungroup. So that's 2 ways to ungroup. Be careful when you're working with worksheet tabs. If you click on one that is not grouped, the sheets you're working on that you want to be grouped will become ungrouped. So now we'll do some recap on what we learned in lesson 3 with cell referencing. The majority of these cells will be left blank for you to populate with the information that you have learned from lesson 3 and from this lesson. The overhead, we want to populate all of these cells with the information from the cost pool. In order to do that, we need to make these cells equal to the cells in the 2012 cost pool. So we will select this cell, and we will start our formula with the equal sign because all formulas start with equal. Once we enter the equal sign, Excel knows that we are doing a formula. So when we click on this tab, Cost Pool, it will enter that into the formula. As you see here, Cost Pool. Now we wanted to enter that cell as well, so we'll scroll down to 2012 and enter that cell, and now that is also entered into the formula, this cell on the Cost Pool sheet. Enter, and this cell is populated. So what we learned in lesson 3 is we grab the fill handle like this, drag it down, and then drag it across to populate all of these cells with that formula. Now you see here exists a problem. The number is not able to be displayed in these cells because the cells are too small. So as we learned in the previous lesson, we will select all of these columns, go to the Home tab, Format, and Auto Fit Column Width. Now you see that the cell width is big enough to display the numbers represented here from the cost pool. So you see these numbers are now the same as these numbers. We need to have totals at the end here for all of these costs. So we select this cell at the end and we use the auto sum, and that will add all of these cells. You use the tab key. And once again, we grab the fill handle to copy the formula down. And here again we have a problem with the cell being too small. Select the column, format, fit column width. For the purposes of simplifying this lesson, we are going to say that the overhead costs are divided evenly among all of our product line. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 product lines, and each product line has 10 products, for a total of 40 products. For this column, we're going to divide the total by 40 to divide the costs among all of our products. First of all, we want to change this cost per unit to match this column, overhead costs. So we'll change that to overhead costs and format autofit. Okay, now we have correctly named this column overhead costs because this information needs to be populated in the overhead costs for the cost per unit. So we'll select this cell and start our formula with equals this cell divided by 40 products and press the tab key. Now this cell has the formula of this cell divided by 40. We'll select this cell again and copy that formula to these cells. Now all of these totals have been divided by 40. And now we need a total cost for our overhead, so we select this cell and use the auto sum and enter. And now we have a total overhead costs for all of our 40 products. So each of our 40 products will have this overhead cost. So now this overhead cost has to be populated in our overhead costs in the cost per unit here. Start our formula with equals this cell and press the enter key. Now you see this cell is equal to this cell. And then we need this cell to be equal to this cell. And enter. Grab the fill handle and fill the remaining cells. Now this cell will be equal to this cell. Tab, fill handle, and so on down all of this product line. And now in order to finish this lesson, we have to carry on doing the things that we learned in lesson 3. One thing we'll do is get all of these to be auto fit by selecting all of these columns and auto fit. And now all the columns are auto fit. So now in order to complete this lesson, we have to finish populating these cells. We have to decide on a unit purchase price and enter it in here and copy that down to these other products. Then we have to select this and use the auto sum to add the unit purchase price to overhead costs to get a cost per unit. Then we have to use cell referencing to enter that information into these cells. You should have already created all of these cells and these worksheets. And now it's your job to finish completing these worksheets. And you need to populate all of the cells with the information that you have learned from lesson 1, 2, and 3, and this lesson, lesson 4. Remember, practice makes perfect, and learning comes from doing. So do the work, and you will become proficient in using Microsoft Excel. So that is the end of this tutorial, Excel Tutorial 4. Check back often for more Excel tutorials. And thanks for watching.